My wife cheated on me with her boss, and now she's trying to claim half of our $750, $0 house and $300, $0 in savings, even though she was the one who maxed out our credit cards and secretly withdrew $50, $0 for her affair. Can I really be betrayed this badly over money? I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this, especially not by someone I trusted so completely. My wife Lisa had always been the type to act like she's got everything under control, sharp, ambitious, a bit bitchy but charming when she wanted to be. We'd been married for 8 years, and honestly I thought we had a pretty stable life. Big house, decent savings, a good job, things were good on paper. But then she started changing little by little, and I didn't notice at first. It all started about 3 months ago. She began working late more often, claiming she had extra meetings or client dinners. I'd come home and find her on her phone, acting secretive, shutting down when I asked about her day. She'd get defensive, snap at me for no reason, and then claim I was just paranoid. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was stressed or just tired. That is, until I noticed her spending habits changed. She'd swipe her credit card more frequently, sometimes for things I didn't recognize: luxury clothes, expensive dinners, even jewelry. I'd ask her about it and she'd brush it off, say she was treating herself, that I shouldn't worry. Then came the real shocker. One night, I came home early from work because I was feeling off. I decided to check her phone just to see if there was anything I'd missed. What I found made my stomach drop: a series of texts between Lisa and her boss, Mark. They weren't just professional emails. They were flirtatious, suggestive, filled with talk about how much they wanted each other, how they couldn't keep their hands off. I saw messages about secret meetings, plans to meet after hours, and even explicit messages about their sex. It was like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe she'd do that to me, to us. I didn't confront her right away. I sat there reading those texts, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. It was surreal. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Did I miss the signs? Was I blind? I felt betrayed, angry, and just numb all at once. I kept telling myself I needed to find out more before I said anything. But inside, I knew I'd uncovered something terrible. My wife, the woman I loved, was cheating on me with her boss, and she'd been lying about everything. That's when I realized this wasn't just about a fling. It was about trust, respect, and everything I thought was real crumbling in an instant. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and every time I looked at Lisa, I saw her differently. She acted normal, as if nothing was wrong, but I knew better. I started noticing little things. Her phone kept ringing at odd hours. She'd disappear into the bedroom for long stretches, and she was more bitchy than usual, snapping at me for no reason. I could tell she was hiding something, and I was starting to get pissed off. One afternoon, I decided I'd had enough of playing nice. I followed her when she left for another work dinner. She told me she was going to meet her boss, Mark, for some late-night project thing. I followed her to a fancy hotel downtown. I parked a few blocks away and watched her go inside. My heart was pounding. I felt like I was in some bad movie, but this was real life, and I was about to find out just how deep her betrayal went. I waited outside for about 20 minutes, then saw her come out, looking flushed and hurried. She got into a car with Mark and they drove off. That was the moment I knew I had to act. I wasn't going to let her keep lying to me, not after what I'd seen. I went back home, heart racing, and I started digging through our bank statements and credit card bills. What I found was worse than I expected. She'd maxed out our credit cards more than once on things I hadn't authorized or even known about: designer clothes, spa treatments, weekend getaways. And then I saw the withdrawals: $50, zero gone from our savings account. I couldn't believe it. She'd been secretly funneling money into some account I wasn't aware of, probably to cover her expenses with Mark or to hide her affair. That's when I realized this wasn't just an emotional betrayal. It was financial sabotage. I felt a mixture of rage and heartbreak. How could she do this? How could she lie and cheat, drain our savings, and still pretend everything was fine? The worst part was knowing she'd been lying about her whereabouts, about her feelings. I started to piece everything together: Her bitchy attitude, her secretive phone calls, her sudden obsession with money. She was hiding something huge, and I was starting to see the scope of her betrayal. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew this wasn't going to be simple. Lisa was a master at lying, and I had no idea what she was capable of when cornered. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing, replaying everything I'd uncovered. The texts, the secret withdrawals, the late-night disappearances. I felt like I was living in some twisted nightmare. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind. But then I realized Lisa had always been good at hiding what she didn't want me to see. That bitchy attitude, her sharp words, those were just her defenses. She'd always been manipulative, but this was next level. I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine, not after what I'd found. So I sat her down the next morning, waited until she was in a good mood, good mood, then laid everything out. I showed her the bank statements, the texts, the withdrawals. I told her I knew about her affair with Mark, about how she'd been lying and stealing from us. Her reaction was predictable. She looked surprised at first, then angry, then defensive. "Oh, come on, Brad," she snapped, rolling her eyes. "You're overreacting. It's not what you think. Mark and I are just friends. You're being paranoid as usual." She lied so effortlessly it made my blood boil. I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew the truth, that I had proof, and that she couldn't keep hiding behind her bitchy attitude anymore. That's when she started twisting it all around, trying to turn me into the bad guy. "Look, I was stressed out," she said, crossing her arms. "You always accuse me of cheating, but I've never done anything that bad. You're just jealous because Mark pays me attention. Honestly, I don't see what the big deal is. It's not like I slept with him yet." She smirked at the last part like she was trying to rub it in. That's when I snapped. I told her she was a lying, manipulative bitch and I wasn't going to let her ruin everything we built. I told her I knew about the money, about her affair, and that I was done being played. Her face twisted with anger. "You're crazy, Brad. You're just jealous because I get more attention at work. Mark's good to me and I deserve to be happy. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, I wouldn't have to look elsewhere." That's when she started crying, fake tears streaming down her face, trying to make me feel guilty, but I wasn't falling for it. I saw right through her act. She was trying to manipulate me, just like she'd done so many times before. I told her I was done. I told her she could take her lies and her money and go. I was sick of her bitchy attitude, her cheating, her stealing, everything. I knew I had to do something, and I wasn't going to let her keep destroying my life. Thing was, I didn't just want her out of my house. I wanted her to pay for what she'd done. I was furious, but I knew I had to be smart. This wasn't just about breaking up. It was about making sure she didn't walk away with a dime of what she'd betrayed me over. After that confrontation, I felt a strange mix of relief and rage. Relief because I finally faced her, laid everything bare, and refused to be manipulated anymore. Rage because I knew she'd try to spin everything in her favor, probably claim I was some controlling asshole, and try to take half our house and savings, even though she was the one cheating, maxing out our credit cards, and secretly withdrawing that $50, $0. I wasn't about to let her get away with it. Over the next few days, I started digging even deeper. I hired a private investigator to confirm her whereabouts when she said she was at work, and to gather proof of her meetings with Mark. I also contacted a lawyer to understand my rights, especially regarding the house and the money she was trying to claim. It was a brutal process, but I needed to be prepared. I also made copies of all bank statements, credit card bills, texts, and any evidence I could find. I knew she'd try to spin this in court, claiming she deserved half because she was married to me, but I was determined to fight for what was mine. One thing that really pushed me over the edge was the realization that she'd been secretly siphoning money for her affair. That $50, $0, gone without my knowledge, was a blow. I looked at our savings account, the house value, the equity we'd built together. It was all at risk. Lisa had always been a bitchy, manipulative woman, but now she was showing her true colors, greedy, selfish, and willing to destroy us for her own benefit. I knew I had to act fast. I sat her down again, this time armed with my lawyer's advice, and told her I was filing for divorce. I wanted her out of my house, and I was going after every cent she'd stolen or tried to claim. She yelled, called me paranoid, said I was ruining her life, but I didn't care. I told her I'd see her in court, and I meant every word. I also warned her that I'd expose her affair publicly if she kept trying to manipulate the situation. That made her panic a little, but she kept insisting she was the victim here, that Mark was just a friend, and that I was overreacting. Yeah, right. The most shocking thing was her sudden shift in attitude, trying to act innocent after I told her I was serious. She started crying, begging me not to take everything away, claiming she loved me and was sorry. But I knew her well enough by now to see through that act. She'd been lying to me for months, cheating, stealing, and now she wanted to play the victim. It was infuriating. I realized that her bitchy, manipulative personality wasn't going to change, and I had to be prepared for whatever she'd try next. I wasn't just fighting for my marriage. I was fighting for my life savings, my house, and my sanity. The court date was set about 2 weeks after I filed for divorce. I spent those days gathering every piece of evidence I could find, more bank statements, the texts, photos of her secret meetings, and even the receipts from the credit cards she'd maxed out. I also documented her secret withdrawals and the fact that she'd been lying about her whereabouts. I wanted to make sure I had everything to shut her down, especially if she tried to claim half the house or the savings. On the day of the hearing, I was nervous but determined. I had my lawyer with me, and I knew I was prepared. Lisa showed up, looking bitchy and pissed off, trying her usual manipulative tactics. She was trying to cry her way through the hearing, claiming she deserved half because she contributed to the house and the marriage, but I had the evidence. I presented everything: her texts, the bank statements, the withdrawals, the proof of her affair with Mark. I explained how she'd been dishonest, how she'd maxed out our credit cards, and how she'd secretly taken money for her affair. The judge listened carefully, and I could see the wheels turning. I laid out my case. I wasn't contesting her right to some assets, but I was contesting her claim to half of everything, especially because she'd betrayed me on every level. I argued that her affair and financial betrayal voided her claim to a fair share. I also pointed out that she'd been dishonest about her income and her expenditures, and that her actions had directly harmed our financial stability. Lisa's face was red with anger and frustration. She kept trying to interrupt, claiming I was trying to punish her unfairly. But the judge was firm. After a long back and forth, the judge ruled in my favor on most issues. She awarded her a smaller portion of the house, enough to cover her half of the mortgage, but not the entire property. As for the savings, I kept the lion's share, especially the money I'd saved from years of working hard. The judge also ordered her to pay back the stolen $50, $0 plus interest. When it was all over, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. I had fought, I had proven my case, and I was finally free from her manipulations. She stormed out of the courtroom crying, calling me all sorts of names, but I didn't care. I knew I had done what I needed to do. I was angry, betrayed, and hurt, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. I'd taken control of my life again. The aftermath wasn't easy. Lisa tried to manipulate her way back into my life, but I cut her off completely. I changed the locks, sold some of her belongings she'd tried to leave behind, and focused on rebuilding myself. I realized how much her greed and lies had almost destroyed everything I'd worked for. I learned that trust is fragile, and that sometimes the people closest to you can betray you in the worst ways. But I also learned that standing up for yourself, fighting back, and being smart about your money can help you survive even the worst betrayals. And most importantly, I learned that I'd be okay, better than okay, without her. After everything, I thought I'd feel relief, but honestly, it's been a mixed bag. I'm relieved that I stood my ground, that I didn't let her walk all over me, and that I managed to keep what was rightfully mine. The house, the savings, those are mine now, and I don't have to worry about her trying to take half of it just because she was greedy and unfaithful. But beneath that, I still carry a deep sting of betrayal. It's hard to trust anyone after something Like this, especially someone you thought you knew so well. Living through her manipulations, her lies, her affair, those things stay with you. It's like a scar that never quite fades. I've had to rebuild my life from scratch in many ways. I've started focusing on my career more, pouring my energy into work and hobbies I used to enjoy before she turned everything upside down. I've also cut out most contact with her. The few times I've seen her since the court, she's still bitchy, still trying to play the victim, but I've learned to see through her act now. I see her for what she is, a selfish, manipulative woman who is willing to destroy everything for her own pleasure and greed. Looking back, I realize how much this whole ordeal has changed me. I'm more cautious, more aware of the red flags I ignored for too long. I don't trust easily anymore, and I probably never will in quite the same way. But I've also learned that I'm stronger than I thought. I fought for what was rightfully mine, and I won. I managed to come out on the other side, battered but still standing. To anyone going through something similar, I'll say this: trust your gut. Don't ignore the signs of betrayal or greed, no matter how much you love someone. Protect your money, your assets, and your dignity. And if you find yourself betrayed, don't be afraid to fight for yourself. It's hard, it's painful, but it's worth it. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one who truly has your back. And if you stay strong, you can come out of it even better than before.